Chapter 1. Impatience is mental weakness in disguise. The internal fire. Close your eyes for a moment and think about the last time you were stuck in traffic when you were already 5 minutes late. Or think about that moment you sent a text message to someone important, saw the read receipt, and then watched the seconds tick by without a response. What did that feel like in your body? Your heart rate probably increased. Maybe your chest felt tight. Perhaps you started tapping your fingers or grinding your teeth. This is the physical manifestation of impatience. We often describe it as being in a rush or having high standards for efficiency, but let's call it what it actually is, a temporary loss of sanity. Impatience is a form of cognitive narrowness. When you are impatient, your brain enters a threat response mode. It perceives the delay, whether it's a slow elevator or a slow-moving career, as a direct attack on your well-being. But here is the hard truth that most people refuse to face. Impatience is not a sign of a fast-moving, high achiever. Impatience is mental weakness in disguise. The illusion of urgency. We live in a culture that worships the hustle. We are told that if you aren't first, you're last, and that the early bird gets the worm. This has created a collective delusion where we confuse speed with effectiveness. We feel that if we are moving fast, we must be doing something right. But there is a profound difference between urgency and impatience. Urgency is a strategic choice. It is the focused application of energy to complete a task efficiently. Impatience, however, is an emotional reaction. Urgency is a tool you use. Impatience is a master that uses you. When you act out of impatience, you aren't actually moving faster toward your goal. You are simply vibrating with more anxiety. Most people who claim to be fast-paced are actually just emotionally unstable. They cannot handle the tension of an unfinished task. They cannot endure the silence of a waiting period. So, they rush. They snap. They make a move, any move, just to stop the internal feeling of discomfort that comes with waiting. Speed without control is chaos. Imagine a professional racing driver. To the spectator, it looks like they are simply driving as fast as humanly possible. But if you talk to a Formula One driver, they will tell you that the secret isn't just the gas pedal, it's the brakes. If you have a 1,000 horsepower engine but no control over your steering or your timing, you aren't a racer, you are a crash waiting to happen. Speed without control is chaos. In your life, patience is the control mechanism. It is the brakes and the steering that allow you to use your speed effectively. Without patience, your ambition will eventually destroy you. You see this in the entrepreneur who launches 5 businesses in 2 years and fails at all of them because they didn't have the patience to see one through the boring middle phase. You see this in the person who starts a new fitness routine every month but never sees results because they quit the moment the scale stays the same for 3 days. They had the speed. They had the hustle. But they had no control. They were governed by the need for immediate feedback, and when the world didn't give it to them, they spiraled into chaos. The cost of impulsivity, destroying opportunities. Let's look at the real-world wreckage caused by impatience. Think about the most regrettable moments of your life. How many of them happened because you reacted too quickly? Perhaps it was a relationship. You felt a moment of insecurity or anger, and instead of waiting for the feeling to pass, you sent a scathing text message at 2 a.m. You felt an immediate release of tension the moment you hit send, but by the next morning, that release had turned into a permanent scar on the relationship. Or perhaps it was your career. Someone gave you constructive criticism that felt like a personal attack. Your ego couldn't handle the discomfort of feeling criticized, so you responded instantly with a defensive, arrogant retort. In that 10-second window of impatience, you didn't prove how smart you were, you proved how fragile you were. You signaled to your superiors and peers that you lack the emotional maturity to handle pressure. Strong minds delay reactions. They understand that the first impulse is usually a primitive one, a fight or flight response from the lizard brain. When you respond instantly to criticism, you are letting your lizard brain run your professional life. When you quit a project because it's too slow, you are letting your primitive ancestors, who needed to find food immediately or die, dictate your 21st century career strategy. The first rule: creating the gap. The difference between a person who is a slave to their impulses and a person who is a master of their destiny can be found in a single concept: the gap. There is a famous quote often attributed to Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor: "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Impatience is the attempt to eliminate that space. The impatient person wants the stimulus, the slow traffic, the criticism, the delayed result, to be followed immediately by a response: honking the horn, yelling, quitting. They want to close the gap because the gap feels like a void. It feels like losing. But the master knows that the gap is where your power lives. The moment you pause, you have won. If someone insults you and you wait 5 seconds before responding, you have already gained the upper hand. In those 5 seconds, you have processed the emotion, analyzed the situation, and decided on the most strategic outcome. You are no longer reacting, you are responding. Redefining strength. We need to stop seeing the hot head or the fast talker as a powerful figure. In reality, the person who loses their cool the fastest is the weakest person in the room. Why? Because they are the easiest to manipulate. If I know that a certain comment will make you lose your patience, then I own you. I can pull your strings whenever I want. Patience is a form of psychological armor. It says to the world, you do not get to decide when I act. I decide when I act. When you train your patience, you are training your ability to hold on to your power. You are telling your brain that your long-term goals are more important than your short-term discomfort. This is the hallmark of mental toughness. It isn't about how much pain you can take. It's about how much waiting you can take without losing your composure. The lesson of the chapter. As we move through this book, we are going to treat patience as a literal, physical skill. Just as you wouldn't expect to walk into a gym and bench press 300 pounds on your first day, you cannot expect to become a Zen master overnight. But you must start by changing your philosophy. You must stop making excuses for your impatience. Stop calling it ambition. Stop calling it passion. Call it what it is, a weakness that is holding you back from your true potential. The moment you accept that impatience is a flaw to be corrected rather than a trait to be proud of, the real training begins. You are taking back the steering wheel. You are preparing to turn your chaos into controlled, directed power. Strong minds delay reactions. Weak minds react. Which one will you be? Chapter summary and key takeaways. Impatience is an emotional reaction, not a strategy. It is a sign that your primitive brain is in control. Speed is useless without control. Rushing leads to mistakes that take longer to fix than the time you saved by being fast. The power of the gap. Your freedom lies in the space between what happens to you and what you do about it. Reaction is vulnerability. If you cannot control your timing, you can be easily manipulated by others and by your own emotions. Chapter 2. Your brain has been trained to be impatient. The invisible architect. If you find yourself reaching for your phone the moment an elevator door closes, or if you feel a surge of irritation when a web page takes more than 3 seconds to load, I have something important to tell you. This is not who you are. This is who you have been programmed to be. We often blame our lack of patience on our personality or the stress of modern life. But the truth is much more clinical. Your brain has been systematically rewired. Over the last 2 decades, we have undergone the largest psychological experiment in human history, and the primary victim of that experiment has been the human capacity for patience. You were not born with an attention span of a goldfish. You were not born needing constant stimulation to avoid a panic attack. You were trained. Every piece of technology you interact with, from the smartphone in your pocket to the streaming service on your television, is engineered by the world's most brilliant minds to do one thing: destroy your ability to wait. The engineering of distraction. To understand why you are impatient, you have to understand the business model of the modern world. We live in an attention economy. Your attention is the most valuable commodity on earth, worth more than oil, gold, or real estate. To capture that attention, technology companies have spent billions of dollars studying human neurobiology to find the soft spots in our evolution. Consider the infinite scroll. When you scroll through a social media feed, there is no end. There is no natural stopping point. This was a deliberate design choice. It mimics a slot machine. In psychology, this is known as a variable reward schedule. If you knew exactly what you were going to see next, you would get bored and put the phone down. But because you might see something interesting, funny, or shocking if you just flick your thumb one more time, your brain stays locked in a loop of anticipation. Every pull to refresh gesture, every notification ping, and every like icon is a calculated strike against your patience. They are training your brain to expect a reward every few seconds. They are shrinking your reward horizon, the amount of time you are willing to wait between an action and a result. When you spend 4 hours a day in an environment that gives you a reward every 10 seconds, how can you expect your brain to handle a career goal that takes 10 years? How can you expect your brain to handle a marriage that requires 10 months of difficult conversations to fix? You can't. Your brain has been trained to crave the hit, and when the hit doesn't come immediately, you experience withdrawal. That withdrawal is what we call impatience. The dopamine trap. At the center of this training is a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Most people think dopamine is the chemical of pleasure, but that's not quite right. Dopamine is the chemical of craving. It is the molecule of more. It is released not when you get what you want, but when you are about to get what you want. It is the fuel of anticipation. In the natural world, the world our ancestors lived in, dopamine was a survival tool. It motivated humans to trek for miles to find a fruit tree or to hunt for days to catch prey. The reward was far away, so the dopamine had to be sustained. In the modern world, we have short-circuited this system. We get the dopamine hit instantly. We feel a moment of boredom, we check a notification, and boom, a tiny spark of dopamine. We feel a moment of hunger, we tap an app, and food arrives at the door, boom, another spark. This is the dopamine trap. When your brain becomes addicted to high-frequency, immediate rewards, your baseline for stimulation shifts. Ordinary life, the life where you have to wait for a promotion, wait for a seedling to grow, or wait for a person to finish their sentence, starts to feel painfully slow. It's like someone who has lived on a diet of pure sugar trying to enjoy a piece of broccoli. The broccoli isn't bad, but the person's palate has been ruined by the sugar. Impatience is simply your brain's way of saying, "Where is my sugar? Why isn't the world moving as fast as my screen?" The death of the in-between. Think back to how life used to be 20 or 30 years ago. There were natural gaps in the day. You stood in line at the grocery store and you just stood there. You waited for a friend at a restaurant and you watched the people walking by. You sat on a bus and looked out the window. These were the in-between moments. They were the natural training grounds for patience. They forced the brain to enter a state of rest or daydreaming. This is when the brain processes information, builds long-term memories, and develops emotional resilience. Today, we have murdered the in-between. We have filled every single gap with a screen. We have eliminated the boredom that is necessary for a healthy mind. By doing this, we have weakened our mental immune system. Because we never practice waiting for small things, we have lost the ability to wait for big things. The brain adapts to what you repeat. If you repeat checking your phone 200 times a day, you are training your brain to be reactive. You are training it to seek an exit from the present moment. You are teaching your neurons that the now is not enough and that you must constantly be searching for a digital bypass. Neuroplasticity, the way back. Now, here is the hope. The same mechanism that was used to break your patience can be used to rebuild it. This is the beauty of neuroplasticity. Your brain is not a stone carving. It is a living, breathing network that is constantly reorganizing itself based on your behavior. Just as a path through a forest becomes wider and clearer the more people walk on it, the neural pathways in your brain become stronger the more you use them. If you spend years walking the impatience path, that road is currently a 10-lane highway in your mind. The patience path, meanwhile, is likely overgrown with weeds and difficult to find. But the moment you start practicing intentional delay, you begin to change the geography of your brain. Every time you feel the urge to check your phone and you choose to wait 60 seconds, you are weeding the patience path. You are laying down a new layer of asphalt. The brain adapts to what you repeat. You have to understand that when you practice patience, you are doing more than just being calm. You are literally performing brain surgery on yourself. You are strengthening the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logic, impulse control, and long-term planning, and you are dampening the amygdala, the part of the brain that triggers the fight or flight panic when things don't go your way. Reconditioning the mind, the boredom workout. To reclaim your brain, you must treat your day as a training ground. You have to start seeing boredom not as an enemy to be avoided, but as a weight to be lifted. When you find yourself in a slow-moving line, don't reach for your phone. Feel the irritation rise. Watch it. Study it. Where do you feel it in your body? Does your chest tighten? Does your breath become shallow? This discomfort is the burn of your patience muscle growing. Try this. For 1 hour a day, put your phone in another room. Experience the phantom vibration syndrome. That feeling where you think your phone just buzzed in your pocket even when it isn't there. That is your brain's itch for dopamine. Don't scratch it. Sit with the itch. The more you repeat this, the more your brain begins to realize that it doesn't need constant stimulation to survive. You are lowering your dopamine baseline. You are training your mind to find satisfaction in the slow. You are moving from a high-sugar mental diet back to a whole foods mental diet. The power of the slow brain. Why does this matter? Because a brain that can tolerate delay is a brain that can achieve anything. The most significant rewards in life, wealth, mastery of a skill, deep love, a healthy body, cannot be downloaded. They cannot be swiped into existence. They exist at the end of a long, often boring, often frustrating road. If your brain is trained to expect a reward every 10 seconds, you will inevitably quit that road before you reach the destination. By reconditioning your mind, you are giving yourself a competitive advantage that 99% of the population no longer has. In a world where everyone is vibrating with tech-induced anxiety, the person who can remain calm, focused, and patient is the person who will lead. The brain adapts to what you repeat. If you repeat patience, you become the master of your time. If you repeat reaction, you remain a servant to your screen. The choice, quite literally, is in your hands. Chapter summary and key takeaways. Impatience is an engineered habit. You weren't born this way. You were programmed by a digital economy that profits from your distraction. The dopamine trap. Your brain has been short-circuited to crave immediate rewards, making slow progress feel like physical withdrawal. The in-between is essential. Boredom is not the enemy. It is the training ground for emotional resilience. Neuroplasticity is your cure. You can rewire your brain by intentionally practicing delay. The golden rule. The brain adapts to what you repeat. If you repeat waiting, you build the skill of patience. Chapter 3. Stop reacting immediately. The puppet master of impulse. Imagine you are walking down a crowded street and someone accidentally bumps into you. Your shoulder jolts, your coffee spills slightly, and before you even look at the person's face, a surge of irritation boils up in your chest. Your mouth opens to snap a sharp watch it, or your eyes narrow in a glare. In that moment, who is in control of your body? Who is in control of your emotions? It isn't you. It is the person who bumped into you. They have just pulled a string, and you, like a puppet, have jerked in response. This is the fundamental difference between a reactive life and a responsive life. Reaction is a reflex. Response is a choice. Reaction is an ancient, primitive survival mechanism that belongs in the jungle, not in your boardroom, your living room, or your internal monologue. To master patience, you must accept a hard truth. Reaction is weakness, response is power. The anatomy of the hijack. When you react immediately to a stimulus, whether it's a rude email, a crying child, or a plummeting stock price, you are experiencing what psychologists call an amygdala hijack. The amygdala is the almond-shaped part of your brain responsible for processing emotions, especially fear and anger. Its job is to keep you alive. If a tiger jumps out at you, you don't want to pause and reflect. You want to react instantly. The amygdala bypasses the rational, thinking part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, and sends a direct signal to your nervous system to fight, flee, or freeze. The problem is that in the modern world, we don't have tigers. We have passive-aggressive co-workers and slow Wi-Fi. But your brain doesn't know the difference. It treats a disliking of your photo on social media with the same biological intensity as a physical threat. When you react instantly, you are essentially telling the world, my primitive brain is in charge. I have no access to my logic right now. This makes you predictable. It makes you fragile. And most importantly, it makes you easy to manipulate. If I know exactly what button to push to make you angry, then I own you. You are a machine that I can operate at will. The 10-second pause technique. So, how do we break the strings? How do we stop being a reflex machine and start being a human being with agency? We use the most powerful tool in the arsenal of patience, the 10-second pause. It sounds simple, perhaps too simple, but the biology behind it is profound. An amygdala hijack, that surge of chemical adrenaline and cortisol, actually has a very short shelf life. If you do not feed the emotion with more angry thoughts, the initial chemical surge begins to dissipate in about 6 to 10 seconds. If you can survive those 10 seconds without opening your mouth, without hitting send, and without making a decision, you have successfully handed the wheel back to your rational mind. Pause first. Act second. Here is exactly how to execute the 10-second pause in real time. Identify the flash. The moment you feel that heat in your neck or that tightening in your stomach, say to yourself internally, I am having a reaction. Labeling it immediately shifts the activity from your emotional brain to your logical brain. The physical anchor. Plant your feet flat on the floor or grip the edge of the table. Connect with something physical. This grounds you in the present moment. The breath. Take 2 deep, slow breaths. Don't worry about looking strange. A 5-second inhale and a 5-second exhale is exactly the duration of the 10-second pause. The question, ask yourself, what is my goal here? Is your goal to win a petty argument, or is it to maintain a professional reputation? Is your goal to vent, or is it to solve the problem? By the time you have gone through these 4 steps, the lizard brain has retreated. You are no longer a puppet. You are now a strategist. Real-world examples. The power of the pause. Look at the most successful leaders in history. Whether it's a high-level CEO during a market crash or a general on a battlefield, they all share one trait. They are incredibly difficult to rattle. When a crisis hits, the amateur reacts. They start barked orders, they show panic on their face, and they rush to implement a solution, any solution, just to feel like they are doing something. This creates a trickle-down effect of anxiety. The leader, however, pauses. They might sit in silence for a full minute before speaking. They might go for a walk. They might simply lean back in their chair and breathe. To an outsider, this looks like hesitation. But to the trained eye, this is the highest form of power. They are letting the noise settle so they can see the signal. Pause first. Act second. Think about a negotiation. If you make an offer and the other person immediately says no, and you immediately jump in with a lower price, you have lost. You reacted out of the fear of losing the deal. But if the other person says no, and you simply sit there in silence, looking at them calmly, you have shifted the pressure onto them. Your silence, your patience, becomes a psychological weight that they must carry. The person who can sit in the silence the longest is the person who is winning the negotiation. Reaction is a brand. Every time you react, you are building a brand in the minds of others. If you are known as someone who snaps when they are stressed, people will stop bringing you information. They will hide their mistakes from you. They will walk on eggshells around you. You might think you are being tough or authoritative, but in reality, you are being bypassed. You are being left out of the loop because you are too volatile to handle the truth. On the other hand, if you are known as someone who pauses, someone who stays calm when the house is on fire, you become a magnet for opportunity. People want to be around someone who is unshakable. They want to follow the person who doesn't let their emotions dictate their actions. Patience is not just a personal virtue. It is a professional asset. It is the foundation of executive presence. When you stop reacting immediately, you signal to the world that you are a high-value individual who is in total command of their faculties. The strategy of non-action. Sometimes, the best response is no response at all. In our hyper-connected world, we feel an immense pressure to respond to everything. A comment on your post. Respond. A notification. Respond. An insult. Respond. We have been trained to believe that silence is consent or silence is weakness. But in the realm of patience, silence is a strategic choice. Not every criticism deserves a defense. Not every question deserves an answer. Not every problem deserves an immediate solution. By practicing the 10-second pause, you give yourself the option of strategic non-action. You realize that many problems will actually solve themselves if you just stay out of the way. Many insults will wither and die if you don't give them the oxygen of a response. Pause first. Act second. The training ground. This week, I want you to look for micro-triggers. Don't wait for a life-altering crisis to practice your 10-second pause. Practice it when the waiter brings you the wrong order. Practice it when someone cuts you off in traffic. Practice it when you see a political post that makes your blood boil. These small moments are your gym. If you can't handle a 10-second delay over a cold cup of coffee, you will never handle a 10-month delay in your career. Remember, every time you pause, you are cutting a string. You are moving further away from being a puppet and closer to being the master. You are reclaiming the power that you have been giving away to everyone else. Reaction is weakness. Response is power. Chapter summary and key takeaways. The amygdala hijack. Your brain is wired to react instantly to threats, but modern threats are rarely life-threatening. You must learn to override this primitive reflex. The 10-second rule. Waiting just 10 seconds allows the chemical surge of emotion to pass, returning control to your rational mind. Pause first. Act second. This must be your new mantra for every interaction. Silence is a position of strength. The person who can sit in silence and wait holds the psychological advantage in any room. Building your brand. Your reputation is built on how you handle pressure. A patient person is a trusted leader. A reactive person is a liability. Chapter 4. Train your tolerance for discomfort. The itch you can't scratch. Imagine you are sitting in a doctor's waiting room. There are no magazines on the table. Your phone battery is at 0%. The clock on the wall is ticking, and the receptionist tells you it will be another 20 minutes. What happens inside you? For most people, a subtle form of agony begins to set in. It starts as a restless energy in the legs, an itch that isn't on the skin, but deep inside the mind. You feel an overwhelming urge to do something, to move, to check something, to escape the present moment. This is the secret that no one tells you about impatience. Impatience is not a time management problem. It is a discomfort avoidance problem. We don't get angry because the line is moving slowly. We get angry because we cannot tolerate the feeling of being stuck in a moment we don't like. We have become comfort addicts. Because we live in an age of climate control, instant delivery, and endless entertainment, our threshold for any kind of friction, physical or mental, has dropped to near zero. To master patience, you must stop trying to manage your time and start training your tolerance for discomfort. You must learn to sit in the fire of waiting without trying to put it out. The barbell of boredom. Think about how a muscle grows. If you go to the gym and lift a weight that is light and comfortable, your muscles have no reason to change. They only grow when they are subjected to stress, when you push them to the point where they feel a slight burn. That burn is the signal to the body that it needs to adapt and become stronger. Patience works exactly the same way. Every time you are in a situation that makes you feel impatient, you are standing in front of a psychological barbell. If you immediately reach for your phone to distract yourself, you have just dropped the weight. You have avoided the stress, and therefore you have avoided the growth. But if you choose to stay in that moment, to feel the irritation, to observe the restlessness, and to remain calm anyway, you are lifting the weight of boredom. Repetition builds tolerance. The more often you lift the discomfort of waiting, the lighter it begins to feel. Eventually, things that used to make you snap will barely register on your radar. You haven't changed the world around you. You have simply increased your capacity to handle it. You have built psychological calluses. The micro-training protocol. You do not wait for a major life crisis to build patience. You build it in the micro-moments of your daily life. Most people see these moments as wasted time, but from this moment forward, you will see them as training sessions. Here are the 3 primary drills for building your discomfort tolerance. 1. The grocery line drill. The next time you are at the store, look for the longest line. Don't look for the express lane. Intentionally pick the line with the person who has 100 coupons and the cashier who looks like they are moving in slow motion. Then, here is the hard part. Keep your phone in your pocket. Do not check your email. Do not scroll through social media. Just stand there. Feel the urge to check the time. Feel the irritation when the person in front of you takes too long to find their wallet. Watch those emotions like a scientist observing a lab rat. Say to yourself, this is the burn. This is my patience muscle growing. By the time you reach the front of the line, you haven't just bought groceries. You've completed a mental workout. 2. The slow lane strategy. When you are driving, stay in the right-hand lane or the slow lane in your country. Set your cruise control to exactly the speed limit. When someone zooms past you, or when someone is tailgating you, don't react. Most of us drive in a state of constant, low-level combat. We are trying to beat the traffic. By intentionally choosing the slow lane, you are opting out of the war. You are practicing the art of being passed. This trains your ego to accept that you don't always have to be first, and it trains your nervous system to remain calm while the world rushes around you. 3. The one thing meal. We have a habit of stacking our dopamine. We don't just eat. We eat while watching a show. We don't just walk. We walk while listening to a podcast. This trains our brain to believe that a single stream of stimulation is boring and uncomfortable. Once a day, do one task with 0 secondary stimulation. Eat your lunch in silence. Just taste the food. If you feel the urge to do something else while you eat, that is the discomfort we are talking about. Lean into it. Repetition builds tolerance. The phone as a psychological crutch. We must address the greatest enemy of discomfort tolerance, the smartphone. The smartphone is a numbing agent. It is the psychological equivalent of taking a painkiller the moment you feel a tiny bit of soreness. The second we feel a gap in the day, the second we feel bored, we pull out the phone to numb that feeling. When you do this, you are telling your brain, I am not capable of being alone with my own thoughts. I am not strong enough to handle 30 seconds of silence. Over time, this makes you mentally fragile. It's like a person who uses a wheelchair even though their legs work. Eventually, their leg muscles will atrophy and they won't be able to walk at all. If you want to be a person of power, you must reclaim your ability to be bored. You must prove to yourself that you can exist in a state of nothingness without panicking. When you stop using your phone as a crutch, you will find that you have a level of focus and clarity that other people can only dream of. Why discomfort is the path to strategy? Why are we doing this? Is it just to be nice or calm? No. We are training our tolerance for discomfort because the person who can handle the most discomfort is the person who wins. In business, the person who is too uncomfortable to wait for a better deal will settle for a bad one. In a dispute, the person who is too uncomfortable to sit in a tense silence will be the first to give in just to break the tension. In a career, the person who is too uncomfortable to handle the slow years of skill building will quit and never reach mastery. Impatience is often just discomfort avoidance masquerading as efficiency. People rush decisions not because they are being fast, but because they can't stand the tension of an undecided state. They want the decision to be over so they can stop feeling the anxiety of uncertainty. But the most important decisions require you to sit in that uncertainty. They require you to hold the tension for days, weeks, or even months while the right answer reveals itself. If you haven't trained your tolerance for discomfort, you will fold. You will make a fast decision that turns out to be a wrong decision. The muscle growth mindset. From now on, I want you to reframe your internal language. When you feel that itch of impatience, don't say, I'm frustrated. Say, I'm training. When a meeting is running long and you want to scream, say to yourself, this is a heavy set. I am holding the weight. Repetition builds tolerance. When you are waiting for a response to an important email and the silence is driving you crazy, say, I am building my capacity for uncertainty. This is where my power comes from. By changing the narrative, you turn a negative experience, waiting, into a positive experience, training. You stop being a victim of the clock and start being a student of your own mind. Becoming unshakable. The ultimate goal of this training is to reach a state where you are unshakable. An unshakable person is someone who is no longer a slave to their own comfort. They can be in a loud, chaotic environment and remain still. They can be in a silent, boring environment and remain engaged. They can be in a high-stakes, high-pressure environment and remain logical. This level of mastery only comes through the daily, repetitive choice to stay in the discomfort. It comes from the 1,000 times you didn't check your phone in the elevator. It comes from the 100 times you stayed in the slow lane. It comes from the dozens of times you let someone else finish their long, rambling story without interrupting them. You are building a mind that can endure anything. And a mind that can endure anything can achieve anything. Repetition builds tolerance. Chapter summary and key takeaways. Impatience is discomfort avoidance. We don't hate waiting. We hate the itch of being stuck in an uncomfortable moment. The muscle analogy. Patience grows under stress. If there is no discomfort, there is no growth. Micro-training is key. Use grocery lines, slow lane driving, and silent meals to lift the weight of boredom every day. Ditch the crutch. Stop using your phone to numb every small gap in your day. Reclaim your ability to be alone with your thoughts. The strategic edge. The person who can tolerate the most discomfort and the longest periods of uncertainty holds the most power in any situation. Chapter 5. Slow thinking creates better decisions. The myth of the quick thinker. In our fast-paced corporate and social culture, we have elevated the quick thinker to the status of a hero. We admire the person who has an answer for everything within seconds. We praise the snap judgment. We are told to trust our gut and act on instinct. But if you look at the graveyards of failed businesses, broken marriages, and ruined reputations, you will find they are filled with people who were quick thinkers. The truth is that for most high-stakes situations, your gut is simply a collection of past biases, current fears, and emotional triggers disguised as intuition. When you think fast, you are usually not thinking at all, you are merely reacting. To move from the realm of the amateur to the realm of the master, you must understand that fast thinking is emotional. Slow thinking is strategic. The world's most successful people are not faster than you. They are slower. They have trained themselves to resist the urge to decide until the emotional dust has settled. They know that the slower mind sees more. The two systems of the mind. To understand why patience is the key to intelligence, we have to look at how the human brain processes information. Psychologists often divide our thinking into two systems. System 1 is fast, instinctive, and emotional. It's the part of your brain that knows 2 + 2 is equal to 4 without you having to try. It's the part that makes you jump when you hear a loud noise. It is incredibly efficient, but it is prone to massive errors. It loves shortcuts. It loves to fill in the blanks even when it doesn't have all the facts. System 2 is slow, more deliberative, and logical. This is the part of your brain you use when you are trying to solve a complex math problem or navigate a car through an unfamiliar city at night. System 2 is the patient mind. It requires effort. It requires energy. And because it is expensive for the brain to run, we often try to avoid using it. Most of our life's mistakes happen when we use System 1 to solve a System 2 problem. We use fast thinking to handle a complex negotiation. We use emotional thinking to decide who to marry. We use instinct to invest our life savings. When you train your patience, you are essentially training your ability to manually override System 1 and engage System 2. You are forcing the slow mind to take the wheel. The investor's advantage. The art of doing nothing. Consider the world of high-level investing. If you watch a movie about Wall Street, it's all shouting, fast-moving tickers, and people making million-dollar bets in seconds. But the most successful investor in history, Warren Buffett, spends 80% of his day reading and thinking. He famously says that the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. The fast mind sees a stock price drop and screams, "Sell! Protect your money!" The slow mind sees the same drop, waits, analyzes the underlying value of the company, and realizes that the drop is an irrational panic. The slow mind sees the opportunity that the fast mind missed because it was too busy being afraid. Buffett's partner, Charlie Munger, called this waiting period the most important part of their strategy. He noted that most investors feel the need to be active, to be doing something constantly. But in the world of strategy, activity is often the enemy of results. The slower mind sees more. By refusing to be rushed by the market's volatility, the patient investor sees the long-term patterns that the quick thinkers are too frantic to notice. The elite performer, when the game slows down. You hear this phrase often in professional sports: the game started to slow down for me. When a rookie quarterback enters the NFL, everything looks like a blur. The defenders are too fast, the plays are too complex, and the rookie feels like they have to decide where to throw the ball in a split second. Because they are rushing, they make mistakes. They throw interceptions. They see things that aren't there because their brain is in a state of high-speed panic. But the veteran, the Tom Bradys or the LeBron Jameses of the world, operates in a different reality. They aren't physically faster than the rookies. In many cases, they are slower. But their minds are patient. They don't rush the play. They wait for the defense to commit. They wait for the lane to open. Because they aren't panicking, their brain processes information with higher resolution. They see the tiny shift in a defender's hips. They see the opening that won't exist for another 2 seconds. They are thinking slow in a fast environment. This is the peak of human performance, the ability to maintain slow thinking even when the world is moving at 100 miles per hour. This isn't a gift. It is a skill developed through the patient repetition of staying calm under pressure. The surgeon's paradox: slow is smooth, smooth is fast. In the world of elite surgery or special operations military teams, there is a mantra: slow is smooth and smooth is fast. If a surgeon panics during a complication and starts moving their hands faster to fix the problem, they are likely to nick an artery or make a fatal error. Rushed movements are jagged. Rushed movements are imprecise. When the stakes are highest, the most effective people intentionally slow down their physical movements and their mental processing. By being slow and smooth, they eliminate the errors that would otherwise force them to stop and restart. In the end, the slow surgeon finishes the operation faster than the fast surgeon because they only had to do everything once. The slower mind sees more. It sees the potential complication before it happens. It sees the subtle texture of the tissue. It sees the why behind the problem, not just the what. The strategic value of the second-order thinker. Fast thinking usually stops at the first order of consequences. First order: I am angry at my boss, so I will quit. Action: immediate relief. Second order: if I quit, I lose my health insurance, my reputation in this industry will be damaged, and I will have to find a new job from a position of desperation. Action: long-term disaster. Slow thinking allows you to see the second and third order consequences. Patience gives you the time to play the movie all the way to the end before you hit record. When you are faced with a major decision, whether it's a career move, a large purchase, or a confrontation, the fast mind wants the first order reward. It wants the win. It wants the dopamine. The slow mind asks, and then what? By asking, and then what, 3 times, you force yourself into a strategic state. You start to see the hidden costs of your quick decisions. You realize that the fast path is often a trap. Training the slow thinking skill. How do we practice this in a world that demands instant answers? We must build fences around our decision-making process. 1. The 48-hour rule. For any decision that is not a life or death emergency, implement a mandatory 48-hour waiting period. Whether it's an expensive purchase, a response to a job offer, or an important email. Tell the other party, I have a policy of taking 48 hours to reflect on major decisions to ensure I'm giving them the attention they deserve. This does 2 things. First, it kills the emotional high or low that is clouding your judgment. Second, it signals to the other person that you are a high-value, disciplined individual who cannot be pressured. You are taking control of the clock. 2. The pre-mortem. Before you commit to a fast idea, sit down and perform a pre-mortem. Imagine it is 1 year from now and your decision has turned into a total disaster. Now, ask yourself, why did it fail? This exercise forces your brain out of the optimistic or fast mode and into the analytical or slow mode. It makes you see the risks that your gut was happy to ignore. 3. Write it down. The physical act of writing is slower than the act of thinking. When you think, your mind can skip over gaps in logic. When you write, those gaps become glaringly obvious. If you can't explain your decision clearly on one page of paper, you haven't thought about it yet, you've only felt it. The slower mind sees more. The competitive edge of patience. We live in an age of reactive intelligence. Everyone is responding to the same news, the same trends, and the same social media outrages at the same time. This creates a herd mentality. If you think at the same speed as the herd, you will end up where the herd ends up, which is usually in a state of average results and high anxiety. Patience is your unfair advantage. By being the person who can wait, who can look deeper, and who can think slowly when everyone else is rushing, you see the opportunities that they are moving too fast to notice. You see the flaws in their logic. You see the third-order consequences they are ignoring. Strategic power belongs to those who can tolerate the silence of the slow mind. It belongs to those who understand that a decision made 10 minutes later but with 10 times more clarity is the only decision worth making. The slower mind sees more. Stop trying to be the quickest person in the room. Aim to be the person who sees the most. Chapter summary and key takeaways. Fast thinking is often just an emotional reaction. System 1 is efficient but error-prone. System 2 is slow but logical. The slower mind sees more. Rushing narrows your field of vision. Patience expands it, allowing you to see patterns and risks. Success leaves a slow trail. Whether in investing, sports, or surgery, the elite performers are those who can maintain deliberate, slow thinking under pressure. Second-order thinking, always ask and then what, to see beyond the immediate, emotional result of a decision. Practical fences. Use the 48-hour rule and the pre-mortem to force your brain into slow mode. Narrator note, end of chapter 5. Before you continue, think of one decision you are currently facing. Don't decide now. Just observe the fast-thinking impulses you are having about it. Let them sit. Chapter 6. Master the art of delayed gratification. The 4-year-old's dilemma. In the late 1960s, a psychologist at Stanford University named Walter Miskell began a series of experiments that would change our understanding of human success forever. The setup was deceptively simple. A preschooler was led into a room, sat down in a chair, and a single marshmallow was placed on the table in front of them. The researcher gave the child a choice. "I have to leave the room for a few minutes," they said. "If you wait until I come back, you can have 2 marshmallows. But if you can't wait, you can eat this one right now, but you won't get the second one." If you watch the footage of these experiments, it is both hilarious and heartbreaking. You see 4-year-olds squirming in their seats. They cover their eyes so they don't have to look at the marshmallow. They stroke it. They sniff it. Some of them even nibble at the bottom, hoping the researcher won't notice. Some last for 10 minutes. Others don't even wait for the door to close before stuffing the marshmallow into their mouths. But the real discovery didn't happen in that room. It happened years later. Miskell followed these children as they grew into adults. He found that the children who were able to wait for the second marshmallow, those who could delay their gratification, had higher SAT scores, lower levels of substance abuse, lower rates of obesity, better responses to stress, and higher social competence. The ability to wait was the single greatest predictor of a successful life. Why? Because patience multiplies success, while impulsivity divides it. The war between the present and future self. To master delayed gratification, you have to understand that there are 2 yous living inside your brain at all times. There is the present self. The present self wants the marshmallow. It wants the hit of dopamine. It wants comfort, sugar, and the buy now button. The present self is biologically wired to care about today because, in the ancient world, tomorrow wasn't guaranteed. Then there is the future self. The future self is the one who will actually live with the consequences of your choices. The future self is the one who will have to deal with the debt from that impulsive purchase, the weight gain from that meal, or the lack of skills from that wasted afternoon. Impatience is essentially a form of self-treachery. It is your present self stealing from your future self. When you choose the immediate reward over the long-term gain, you are forcing your future self to pay the interest on your present self's lack of discipline. Patience is the bridge between these two identities. It is the act of treating your future self like someone you actually care about. Waiting is not losing time. Waiting is building leverage. We have a fundamental misunderstanding of what waiting is. We think that if we aren't getting a result now, we are losing time. We feel like we are standing still while the world passes us by. This is a catastrophic mental error. Waiting is not losing time. Waiting is building leverage. Think of a bow and arrow. If you want the arrow to fly with maximum power and reach a distant target, what must you do? You have to pull the string back. To an outside observer who doesn't understand physics, it looks like the arrow is moving backward. It looks like you are losing ground. But you know that the further you pull that string back, the more tension and delay you build, the more potential energy you are storing. When you finally release that string, the arrow travels with a force that would be impossible if you had just thrown it with your hand. This is how delayed gratification works in your career, your wealth, and your skills. Every month you spend studying while others are partying. Every year you spend building a business in obscurity while others are chasing get-rich-quick schemes. You are pulling the string back. You are building leverage. When your moment finally arrives, you will move further and faster than anyone else because of the tension you were willing to endure. The career multiplier, mastery versus the quick buck. In the professional world, the person who cannot delay gratification is a mercenary. They are always looking for the next $5,000 raise or the next cool job title. They jump from company to company, never staying long enough to build deep roots or true mastery. They get a series of mini marshmallows, but they never get the feast. The person of patience is a master. They understand the S-curve of learning. They know that in the beginning, you put in a massive amount of effort for very little reward. This is the valley of disappointment. Most people quit here because their present self is bored and frustrated. But the patient professional knows that if they stay in that valley, if they continue to delay the reward of being recognized, they eventually hit the inflection point. Suddenly, their skills compound. They become the category of one. Because they were willing to wait while everyone else was jumping for the quick buck, they now command a level of income and influence that the mercenary can never reach. Success is not a linear path. It is backloaded. The vast majority of the rewards come at the very end of the process. If you can't handle the boring 90% of the work, you will never see the 90% of the rewards. The wealth multiplier, the miracle of compounding. If you want to see the most brutal mathematical proof of delayed gratification, look at a compound interest table. If you take a penny and double it every day for 31 days, you don't have much for a long time. On day 10, you have $5.12. On day 20, you have about $5,000. To the impatient person, this feels like losing time. They would rather have $100,000 in cash right now than a stupid penny that doubles. But because the patient person understands leverage, they wait. On day 31, that penny has turned into over $10 million. Most of that $10 million was earned in the last 3 days. This is the secret of the world's wealthiest people. They are willing to look poor or average for 28 days so they can be legendary on day 31. They delay the gratification of a fancy car or a luxury lifestyle today so they can own the entire dealership tomorrow. The relationship multiplier. Trust as a slow burn. In our era of swipe right culture, we have tried to apply instant gratification to human connection. We want intimacy without the slow burn of getting to know someone. We want the soulmate feeling without the years of conflict resolution and shared sacrifice. But trust is a delayed gratification asset. You cannot hack trust. You cannot rush a deep bond. When you try to rush a relationship, you are eating the marshmallow early. You are trading the potential for a lifelong, unbreakable partnership for a few weeks of excitement. The most stable relationships are built by people who are willing to wait through the difficult phases, who are willing to delay their need to be right in an argument, and who understand that the real reward of love shows up after a decade, not after a date. How to rebuild the skill of delay. Mastering delayed gratification is not about having an iron will. It is about having a better strategy. If you just try to resist the marshmallow through sheer force of habit, you will eventually fail. The present self is too hungry. Instead, you must use these 3 psychological hacks to bridge the gap. 1. The 10-minute rule. Whenever you feel a powerful urge for an immediate reward, whether it's a cigarette, a chocolate bar, or a distracting YouTube video, tell yourself you can have it, but you have to wait 10 minutes first. In those 10 minutes, the dopamine spike will often subside. You give your future self a chance to show up and argue their case. Often, after 10 minutes, you'll find that the urge has lost its teeth. You aren't saying no, you are just saying later. And later is the language of power. 2. Visualizing the future you. Research shows that people who feel disconnected from their future selves are more likely to be impatient. They view future me as a total stranger. And why would you save money or work hard for a stranger? To fix this, you must make your future self real. Close your eyes and imagine yourself 10 years from now. If you keep giving in to your impulses today, what does that person look like? How do they feel? Are they tired? Are they broke? Are they alone? Now, imagine the version of you that benefited from your patience. Imagine the version that has the mastery, the wealth, and the health because you were willing to wait. Make that person your best friend. Every time you delay gratification, tell yourself, I'm doing this for my friend. 3. Pre-commitment contracts. Don't rely on your willpower in the moment of temptation. Your willpower is a finite resource. Instead, make the impatience path harder to walk. If you want to save money, set up an automatic transfer the day you get paid. If you want to avoid junk food, don't keep it in the house. If you want to focus, put your phone in a timed lockbox. You are locking in the delayed gratification so your present self can't change the deal. The reframe, waiting is building. From this moment on, I want you to delete the phrase "I'm just waiting" from your vocabulary. When you are in the middle of a long project and the results haven't shown up yet, you aren't just waiting. You are building leverage. When you are sitting on your cash instead of spending it on a flashy toy, you aren't missing out. You are buying your future freedom. When you are practicing your craft in a room alone while everyone else is out having fun, you aren't losing your youth. You are sharpening your edge. Waiting is not losing time. Waiting is building leverage. The world is full of people who are eating their marshmallows today and wondering why they are hungry tomorrow. Do not be one of them. Train yourself to love the tension of the pulling back the string. The further you pull it, the more powerful your life will become. Chapter summary and key takeaways. The marshmallow test. Success in life is directly correlated with the ability to delay rewards. The 2 U's. Impatience is the present self stealing from the future self. Patience is treating your future self with respect. Waiting is leverage. Like a bow and arrow, the delay is what creates the power for the eventual release. The compounding effect. The greatest rewards in wealth, career, and relationships are backloaded. They only appear after a long period of consistency. Strategic delay. Use the 10-minute rule and pre-commitment to protect yourself from your own impulses. Narrator note. End of chapter 6. Take a moment to think about one marshmallow you've been eating too early in your life. What would happen if you waited? Chapter 7. Control your emotional triggers. The smoke detector in your mind. Imagine you are at home, cooking a meal, and a tiny bit of steam rises from a boiling pot. Suddenly, the smoke detector on the ceiling begins to scream. It's a piercing, high-pitched alarm that demands your absolute attention. You aren't in danger, there is no fire, but the alarm doesn't know that. Its only job is to detect smoke and trigger a panic. Your emotional triggers work exactly the same way. Impatience is rarely about the passage of time. It is almost always about the alarm going off in your head. When someone criticizes your work, when a partner doesn't text back, or when a project feels stuck, your internal smoke detector goes off. You feel a surge of heat, a tightening in your jaw, and an overwhelming urge to do something, to lash out, to defend yourself, or to quit. This is not efficiency. This is your ego reacting to a perceived threat. To master patience, you must learn to identify these triggers and realize that while the alarm is loud, the house is not actually on fire. The calm mind cannot be manipulated. The 3 pillars of impulsive behavior. Impatience is the front man for a much deeper band of emotions. If you want to control your impatience, you have to go backstage and deal with the trio that is actually running the show: insecurity, fear, and uncertainty. 1. The trigger of criticism, the insecurity alarm. When someone criticizes you, whether it's a boss giving feedback or a stranger on the internet, the impatient mind wants to respond instantly. Why? Because criticism creates a wound in your self-image. Your ego feels a sharp pain, and it believes that if you don't respond right now with a defense or a counterattack, the wound will become permanent. Your impatience in this moment is actually a desperate attempt to stop the pain of feeling less than. You think that by speaking faster or louder, you can fix the criticism. But as we've discussed, a reactive mind is a weak mind. When you rush to defend yourself, you usually end up looking more guilty and less competent. 2. The trigger of rejection, the fear alarm. Think about the last time you reached out to someone you respected or someone you cared about, and they didn't get back to you immediately. The silence felt heavy. The minutes felt like hours. This brand of impatience is born from the fear of rejection. Your brain begins to write a script. They don't like me. I've been found out. I'm not important. To stop this script from playing, you feel the urge to send another message, to call again, or to delete the request entirely. You are trying to resolve the tension of rejection. But patience is the ability to sit in that silence without letting it define your worth. It is the realization that other people's timing is not a commentary on your value. 3. The trigger of uncertainty, the control alarm. Human beings hate not knowing. We would often prefer a bad answer right now than a great answer in a month. Uncertainty feels like walking through a dark room. We are impatient to find the light switch because the darkness feels dangerous. In business, this shows up as rushing the deal. You're so uncomfortable with the maybe that you push for a yes or no before the other side is ready. In your personal life, it shows up as forcing the conversation. You want to know where we stand because you can't handle the ambiguity of the present moment. But power lives in the maybe. The person who is the most comfortable with uncertainty is the person who ultimately dictates the terms. The calm mind cannot be manipulated. Why is emotional control so vital to patience? Because an impatient person is a controllable person. If an opponent knows that you are triggered by criticism, they will use it against you. If a salesman knows you are uncomfortable with silence, they will use it to make you overpay. If a toxic person knows you are afraid of being ignored, they will use the silent treatment to break your will. When you allow your triggers to dictate your timing, you are handing over the keys to your life to anyone who knows how to push your buttons. The calm mind cannot be manipulated. When you are patient, you are essentially saying to the world, you can scream, you can ignore me, you can criticize me, and you can leave me in the dark, but I will still act on my own timeline. I will not be moved by your noise. This is the ultimate form of psychological sovereignty. It makes you unhackable. Recognizing the pattern, the body map of triggers. The secret to stopping a trigger is catching it before it reaches your head. Your body knows you are about to lose your patience before your mind does. This is called interoception, the ability to sense the internal state of your body. Most people live entirely in their heads, so by the time they realize they are angry or impatient, it's too late. They've already sent the email or snapped at their spouse. To fix this, you must build a body map. Next time you feel triggered, stop and scan your physical self. The throat. Do you feel a lump? Is your voice tightening? The chest. Is your heart racing? Is your breathing shallow and high in the lungs? The hands. Are your fists clenching? Are you gripping your phone or steering wheel tighter? The temperature. Do you feel a sudden flush of heat in your face or the back of your neck? This physical signature is your early warning system. The moment you feel the heat or the clench, you must recognize it. This is a trigger. My smoke detector is going off. By labeling the physical sensation, you detach from the emotion. You move from being the anger to observing the anger. And an observer is always more patient than a participant. The technique, decoupling. Once you have identified the trigger, you must use a technique called decoupling. This is the process of separating the event from the meaning you are giving it. The event: my boss didn't reply to my email for 4 hours. The couple: impatience, my boss thinks I'm incompetent and I'm going to be fired. The decouple: patience, my boss is likely in meetings or dealing with their own busy day. My value as an employee is not measured by a response time. The event: this person is driving 10 miles under the speed limit. The couple: impatience, they are disrespecting my time and trying to make me late. The decouple: patience, they are a person I don't know, driving a car I don't own, for reasons I don't understand. I am in control of my own peace of mind. Most of our impatience is caused by coupling neutral events with personal insults. We make the world's slowness about us. Patience is the humble realization that the world is not thinking about us at all. It is just moving at its own pace. The mantra of the patient mind. When you find yourself in the red zone, when the trigger has been pulled and you are seconds away from an impulsive reaction, you need a circuit breaker. This is where the repeated phrase comes in. The calm mind cannot be manipulated. Repeat this to yourself like a prayer. It is a reminder of what is at stake. If you lose your patience, you lose your power. If you react to the trigger, you have been hacked. By repeating this phrase, you are reinforcing your identity as a person of stability. You are telling your nervous system that it is safe to stand down. You are reminding yourself that your calm is your greatest weapon in any negotiation, any conflict, and any delay. The strategy of the cool-down room. In professional settings, elite teams often use cool-down protocols. If a pilot has a near miss, they don't immediately take off again. If a surgeon has a traumatic outcome, they are often required to step away before the next case. You need a cool-down protocol for your emotions. The exit. If you are triggered in a conversation, excuse yourself. Go to the bathroom. Walk to the break room. Physical distance creates mental distance. The water shift. Drink a glass of cold water. The act of swallowing and the sensation of cold forces your brain to shift focus from the abstract, the insult, to the concrete, the physical sensation. The third-person perspective. Ask yourself, how would a calm, wise person handle this? By looking at yourself from the outside, you break the ego loop. The reward of emotional control. What happens when you finally master your triggers? Life becomes significantly easier. You no longer waste hours ruminating on what you should have said. You no longer have to spend energy apologizing for outbursts you regret. You no longer feel like a victim of your environment. When you control your triggers, you control your time. You realize that you have all the time in the world to respond to the things that matter, and zero time to waste on the things that don't. You become a stabilizing force in your family and your business. While everyone else is reacting to the smoke, you are the one who knows there is no fire. The calm mind cannot be manipulated. Exercise. The trigger journal. For the next 7 days, I want you to keep a trigger journal. Every time you feel that surge of impatience or the urge to react impulsively, write down 3 things. The event, e.g., the client asked for a 3rd round of revisions. The physical feeling, e.g., tightness in my chest, clenching my teeth. The false meaning, e.g., they don't respect my expertise and are wasting my time. By the end of the week, you will see a pattern. You will see that your impatience is not random. It is a predictable response to specific triggers. And once a trigger is predictable, it is preventable. You are moving from a state of being triggered to a state of being trained. You are building the unshakable foundation of a patient life. Chapter summary and key takeaways. Impatience is an alarm. It is your brain's way of reacting to perceived threats like criticism, rejection, and uncertainty. The body map. Learn the physical signs of a trigger, heat, tightness, heart rate, to catch the reaction before it becomes an action. Decoupling. Separate the event from the personal meaning you are attaching to it. The calm mind cannot be manipulated. If you can stay calm, you remain in control. If you react, you are giving your power away. The circuit breaker. Use mantras and physical breaks to allow the emotional chemicals to clear before you make a move. Narrator note. End of chapter 7. Think of the last person who pushed your buttons. Imagine them doing it right now, and imagine yourself just smiling and remaining perfectly still. That is the feeling of power. Chapter 8. Patience gives you psychological advantage. The silence of power. In any human interaction, whether it is a high-stakes negotiation for a multi-million-dollar contract, a disagreement with a spouse, or a casual conversation at a party, there is an invisible tug-of-war happening. This is the battle for the frame. The person who controls the pace of the interaction controls the outcome. Most people are terrified of silence. They view a gap in conversation as a vacuum that must be filled immediately. They feel an internal pressure to explain themselves, to justify their position, or to keep the vibe comfortable. This pressure is a form of impatience, and in the world of psychological dynamics, it is a massive leak of power. The person who can sit in silence without flinching is the person who holds the psychological advantage. Why? Because patience signals status. It signals that you are not desperate. It signals that you are in control of your internal state. When you refuse to be rushed, you force the other person to operate on your timeline. The one who needs less controls more. The negotiation table. He who speaks first loses. There is an old adage in the world of professional sales and negotiation: he who speaks first after a proposal loses. Imagine you are negotiating the salary for a new job. The hiring manager makes an offer that is lower than what you wanted. The average person, driven by the discomfort of the situation, reacts immediately. They might start haggling, or they might start explaining why they deserve more, or, worst of all, they might say okay just to end the tension of the moment. The master of patience does something different. They listen to the offer, and then they do absolutely nothing. They look the hiring manager in the eye, they maintain a neutral, pleasant expression, and they wait. 1 second passes. 2 seconds. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. In a negotiation, 10 seconds of silence feels like 10 hours. The hiring manager begins to feel the weight of that silence. Their brain starts to scramble. They think, did I offend them? Is the offer too low? Are they about to walk away? Because they are uncomfortable with the silence, they will often be the ones to break it. And when they break it, they almost always move in your direction. They might say, well, we might have some flexibility on the signing bonus, or, of course, we could revisit the base salary after 6 months. By simply being patient enough to let the silence do the work, you have gained a concession without saying a single word. You didn't need the deal to be settled right that second. And because you needed the resolution less than they needed to fill the silence, you took control. The one who needs less controls more. The philosophy of detachment. To have a psychological advantage, you must cultivate a sense of strategic detachment. This doesn't mean you don't care about the outcome, it means you aren't enslaved by it. Most people are outcome dependent. Their happiness, their confidence, and their sense of peace are tied to getting a specific result right now. If the client doesn't sign today, they feel like a failure. If the person they like doesn't text back within the hour, they feel rejected. This dependency is a scent that other people can smell. It smells like desperation. Patience is the ultimate anti-desperation drug. When you are patient, you are signaling to the world, I want this, but I do not need it right this second to be okay. This creates a vacuum that pulls people toward you. In dating, the person who is less rushed to define the relationship is often the one with the most influence. In business, the company that is willing to let a deal fall through rather than accept bad terms is the company that gets the best deals. When you demonstrate that you have the stomach to wait, you are demonstrating strength. You are showing that your future self is more important than your present self's need for comfort. This makes you formidable. It makes you a person that others hesitate to mess with, because they know they cannot outweight you. Social dynamics and the signaling of status. In social settings, patience is a high-status signal. Observe a group of people. Who is the person who looks the most powerful? It's rarely the one talking the loudest or the one moving the fastest. It is usually the person who is the most still. High-status individuals have a low cadence. They speak slower. They move slower. They take their time before responding to questions. This is because they subconsciously know that their time is valuable and that others will wait for them. Low-status individuals, conversely, often move with a sense of frenetic urgency. They interrupt others because they are afraid they won't get a chance to speak. They answer questions instantly because they are afraid of losing the other person's attention. They are reactors. By intentionally slowing down your social interactions, by pausing before you speak and listening more than you talk, you are performing a status hack. You are projecting an aura of unshakable calm. People naturally look to the calmest person in the room when things go wrong. Why? Because the person who isn't rushing is the person who is most likely to be seeing the truth of the situation. The one who needs less, controls more. The strategic no response. In the digital age, we have been programmed to believe that every input requires an output. If someone sends you a provocative email or an insulting comment, the game of the modern world is to get you to react. When you respond immediately to an insult or a challenge, you are entering the other person's arena. You are playing by their rules, on their court, on their clock. You have lost your psychological advantage the moment you hit reply. Patience allows you to utilize the most devastating weapon in psychological warfare, non-engagement. Imagine someone tries to start an argument with you. They are fired up, their ego is on the line, and they are waiting for you to strike back so they can keep the fire burning. If you wait, and perhaps never respond at all, you have effectively neutralized them. You have denied them the dopamine hit of conflict. By being patient, you choose the battlefield. You decide if the issue is even worth your energy. Often, you will find that by waiting 24 hours to respond to a crisis, the crisis has either solved itself or the other person has calmed down. Your patience saved you from a pointless war. Emotional stability as dominance. We tend to think of dominance as something aggressive, shouting, posturing, or using force. But true dominance is stability. In any system, whether it's a family, a business, or a friendship, the person who is the most stable will eventually become the center of gravity for that system. If you are the one who doesn't panic when the numbers are down, you are the one who will eventually be in charge. If you are the one who stays calm when everyone else is yelling, you are the one whose opinion will carry the most weight when the shouting stops. Patience is the foundation of this stability. It is the ability to maintain your baseline regardless of what is happening around you. Think of a large rock in the middle of a rushing river. The water is fast, chaotic, and loud. It represents the impatience of the world, the deadlines, the insults, the sudden changes. The rock doesn't try to fight the water. It doesn't try to move faster than the water. It just stays. It is patient. And because it stays, the water eventually has to flow around it. The rock dictates the path of the river, simply by being unmovable. The scarcity of attention. In a world where everyone is rushing to be heard, silence and patience become scarce resources. And anything that is scarce is valuable. When you are a patient person, your words carry more weight. Because you don't speak all the time, and because you don't react to every little thing, people listen when you finally do choose to engage. They think, they've been quiet this whole time, observing. If they are speaking now, it must be important. Your patience creates a sense of mystery and depth. People cannot easily read you because you aren't constantly leaking your emotions through impulsive reactions. This information asymmetry gives you a massive advantage. In any strategic environment, the person who knows the most but reveals the least is the one who wins. The one who needs less, controls more. The trap of winning the moment. The greatest enemy of psychological advantage is the desire to win the moment. You want to have the last word in the argument. You want to prove the other person wrong right now. You want to show everyone how smart you are immediately. These are all traps of the ego. They are short-term wins that lead to long-term losses. When you win the moment through impatience, you often damage the relationship, reveal your strategy, or look like a child. Patience allows you to lose the moment so you can win the game. You can let the other person think they won the argument. You can let them have the last word. You can stay silent while they boast. Why? Because you aren't playing for the next 5 minutes. You are playing for the next 5 years. By staying patient and keeping your psychological advantage, you are accumulating capital that you will use when it actually matters. Training the advantage. How do you start practicing this? It starts with the 5-second rule of engagement. The next time someone asks you a question, especially a difficult one, do not answer immediately. Count to 5 in your head. Maintain eye contact. Then, and only then, give a concise, measured answer. At first, this will feel incredibly awkward. You will feel the urge to fill the gap. Resist it. Watch the other person's reaction. You will see them sit up a little straighter. You will see them lean in. You will see them start to respect you more, simply because you showed them that you are the master of your own time. The one who needs less, controls more. If you can master the art of needing nothing from the moment, no validation, no immediate answer, no instant relief, you become the most powerful person in any interaction. You have moved from the audience of life to the director. Chapter summary and key takeaways. Silence is a tool. Use the awkward silence in negotiations to force concessions and reveal information. Status signaling. Patience and stillness are universal signals of high status and internal control. The power of non-engagement. Refusing to react to provocations denies others the ability to manipulate you. Stability is dominance. The most stable person in any system eventually controls that system. Lose the moment, win the game. Stop trying to have the last word. Use patience to play the long-term strategic game. Narrator note, end of chapter 8. The next time you are in a conversation today, try to be the last person to speak. Experience the power of the pause. Chapter 9. Build the daily discipline of waiting. The patience gym. We have spent the previous chapters dismantling the psychology of impatience and understanding the strategic power of the pause. But knowledge without application is merely a hallucination. You can understand the mechanics of a muscle, but if you never pick up a weight, you will never get stronger. Patience is not a state of being you fall into, it is a daily discipline you build. You do not wait for the world to challenge you. You go out and challenge yourself. You must turn your life into a patience gym, where every delay, every slow-moving person, and every unanswered message is a rep that builds your mental iron. To move from trying to be patient to being a patient person, you must implement routines that force you to wait when you don't want to. You must schedule the uncomfortable. When patience becomes a habit, it ceases to be an effort. It becomes your identity. Repetition builds identity. The ritual of the slow morning. The most important battle for your patience happens in the first 60 minutes of your day. Most people begin their day in a state of high-speed reactive panic. They wake up, and within seconds, they reach for their phone. They flood their brain with emails, news, social media, and notifications. By doing this, you are telling your brain, the world is urgent, the world is chaotic, and you must react to it immediately. You are starting your patience engine in the red zone. If you start your day reactive, you will remain reactive until you go to sleep. To build the discipline of waiting, you must master the slow morning. For the first 30 to 60 minutes of your day, the digital world does not exist. Do not check your phone. Do not look at the news. Instead, engage in analog activities that require presence and slow movement. Make your coffee manually. Sit and look out the window. Stretch. Read a physical book. This morning gap is a ritualized delay. It trains your brain that you are the master of your time. You are choosing to wait before engaging with the demands of others. When you finally do pick up your phone, you do so from a position of strength, not from a position of addiction. The SOP of delayed responses. In our always-on culture, we feel an immense pressure to respond to every text, Slack message, and email the moment it arrives. We have been trained to believe that a fast response equals a good employee or a caring friend. But constant availability is just another word for constant distraction. When you respond instantly to everything, you are training people to interrupt you. You are training yourself to be a reflex machine. You need a standard operating procedure, SOP, for delay. The 24-hour rule for non-emergencies. If a message doesn't require an immediate life or death answer, wait. For emails, try to wait at least 4 hours. For texts, wait until your next scheduled break. The batching method. Instead of checking messages 50 times a day, check them 3 times. At 9 a.m., 1 p.m., and 4 p.m. Everything in between is the wait. This discipline does more than just save your time. It builds your tolerance for the unfinished. It teaches you that the world will not end if a message stays unread for a few hours. By intentionally delaying your response, you are conditioning your nervous system to be okay with open loops. Repetition builds identity. Scheduled thinking time. We live in a world of action bias. We feel guilty if we aren't doing something. But for the person of patience, thinking is the most productive action you can take. Once a week, schedule 1 hour of pure thinking time. No phone, no computer, no music, just a notebook and a pen. Pick one problem in your life or business and sit with it. In the first 15 minutes, you will feel incredibly impatient. Your brain will scream at you to check your phone, to get up and get a snack, or to do real work. This is the boredom barrier. Most people never cross it. But if you sit through that discomfort, if you are patient enough to let the shallow thoughts clear, you will eventually reach a state of deep clarity. You are training your brain to stay in the room. You are teaching yourself that the best solutions aren't found in a Google search. They are found in the patient exploration of your own mind. The 3 essential patience rituals. To solidify your discipline, you must incorporate 3 specific checkpoints into your decision-making process. These are the filters that prevent impulsivity from ruining your life. 1. The journaling filter. Never make a decision while you are in the emotional heat of a trigger. When you feel that surge of anger, insecurity, or excitement, your first move is to a piece of paper. Write down exactly what you want to do. I want to quit this job, or I want to tell this person exactly why they are wrong. Then, write down why you feel that way. The act of writing is physically slower than the act of thinking. It forces your brain to downshift. By the time you finish writing the 3rd paragraph, the intensity of the emotion has usually dropped. You have turned an impulsive urge into a data point. You have used the discipline of waiting to save yourself from a mistake. 2. The strategic walk. When you are faced with a difficult choice or a tense situation, the best thing you can do is move your body. But not in a fast way. Take a 20-minute walk without headphones. Movement helps process the cortisol, the stress hormone, that fuels impatience. As you walk, do not try to solve the problem. Just observe your surroundings. This is the ritual of physical distance. By removing yourself from the environment where the problem exists, you are giving your brain the space it needs to see the bigger picture. When you return from the walk, you will find that the urgency of the problem has diminished. 3. The 9 p.m. sleep on it protocol. There is a biological reason why we become more impatient and emotional at night. Your prefrontal cortex, the logical, patient part of your brain, is like a battery. By the time 9 p.m. rolls around, that battery is drained. You are left with your lizard brain, which is impulsive, fearful, and dramatic. Never trust your late-night thoughts. If you feel like your life is a failure, if you feel like your relationship is over, or if you feel like you need to send a truth bomb email at 10:30 p.m., stop. Implement a mandatory sleep on it protocol. Tell yourself, I am allowed to feel this way, but I am not allowed to act on it until I have had 8 hours of sleep. Patience is the realization that your brain is a biological organ that needs maintenance. Most crises disappear after a night of rest. By building the discipline of waiting for the morning, you are protecting yourself from your own temporary exhaustion. The identity shift, from effort to instinct. At first, these rituals will feel like a chore. You will have to use your willpower to keep your phone away in the morning. You will have to grit your teeth to stay in that thinking hour. You will feel the itch to respond to that text. But this is where the magic happens. Every time you choose the slow morning, you are casting a vote for your new identity. Every time you wait 24 hours to buy that shiny new gadget, you are telling yourself, I am the kind of person who is in control. Repetition builds identity. Eventually, you won't need the rules anymore. You will reach a point where someone cuts you off in traffic and you don't even feel the urge to honk. You will reach a point where a project is delayed by 3 months and you simply shrug and say, that gives us more time to refine the details. Patience has moved from your to-do list to your DNA. It is no longer something you do. It is who you are. You have become a slow-motion strategist in a fast-motion world. The power of the wait list. One final practical ritual. Keep a wait list for your desires. Whenever you want to buy something, start a new project, or change a major habit, put it on a list with the current date. You are not allowed to act on it for 30 days. During those 30 days, the new car smell of the idea will wear off. If, after 30 days, you still think it's a good idea, then move forward with total confidence. You'll find that 80% of the things on your wait list lose their appeal after 2 weeks. This discipline saves you thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours of wasted energy. It ensures that your life is built on deep desires rather than surface impulses. The discipline is the reward. You must realize that the waiting is not just a means to an end. The discipline itself is the reward. When you can wait, you are free. You are no longer a slave to the ping of a notification. You are no longer a victim of a salesperson's limited time offer. You are no longer a hostage to your own moods. By building the daily discipline of waiting, you have built a fortress around your peace of mind. You have created a life where you are the one who decides the pace. You move when the time is right, and you stay still when it isn't. You have traded the cheap thrills of the immediate for the enduring power of the disciplined. Repetition builds identity. Chapter summary and key takeaways. The slow morning. Win the first hour by avoiding digital stimulation. Set the pace of your own day. Standard operating procedures. SOPs create rules for yourself, like the 24-hour rule or batching messages, to break the habit of instant reaction. The 3 rituals. Use journaling, walking, and the sleep on it protocol to filter your impulses through your logical mind. The wait list. Give your desires a 30-day cooling off period to separate genuine goals from temporary whims. Identity shift. You are not practicing patience. You are becoming a person who is defined by their calm and control. Narrator note. End of chapter 9. Tonight, when the sun goes down and you feel that late night itch to solve a problem or send a message, stop. Wait for the sun. The morning version of you is much smarter than the night version. Chapter 10. Become unshakably calm. The evolution of the skill. We have reached the final stage of our training. You have dismantled the myth that impatience is a personality trait. You have reconditioned your brain's dopamine pathways. You have learned to embrace discomfort, to engage your slow-thinking brain, and to weaponize silence for psychological advantage. You have built the daily rituals that turn discipline into habit. But something deeper happens when you commit to this path over a long period. Patience eventually undergoes a metamorphosis. It stops being a tool you pull out of your belt when things get difficult, and it starts to become your default state of being. This is the state of being unshakably calm. When you are unshakably calm, you are no longer trying to be patient. The word trying implies effort, and effort implies that there is still an internal struggle. In this final chapter, we move beyond the struggle. We reach the point where the world can scream, the markets can crash, and the people around you can lose their minds, yet you remain as still as the center of a hurricane. The definition of unshakable. Let's be clear about what unshakably calm means. It does not mean you have become a robot. It does not mean you have suppressed your emotions or that you no longer care about results. In fact, you care more about results than ever before, which is exactly why you refuse to let your emotions dictate your timing. Being unshakable means you have developed a high emotional threshold. Think of it like a massive container. A small cup of water will overflow if you add just a few drops of stress. But a deep, wide lake can absorb a torrential downpour without its level rising significantly. By training patience like a skill, you have expanded your internal container. You have created so much space between stimulus and response that almost nothing is large enough to overflow your composure. You are no longer fragile. You have become anti-fragile. You actually get stronger and more focused as the pressure increases. Strategic versus reactive, the sniper's mindset. Most people live their lives like a machine gunner in a panic. They see a target and they spray bullets in every direction, hoping to hit something. They use a massive amount of energy, they make a lot of noise, and they usually miss the mark. This is the reactive life. It is fast, it is loud, and it is ultimately ineffective. The person who has mastered patience operates with a sniper's mindset. A sniper can lie in the same position for 48 hours without moving a muscle. They endure the heat, the cold, the insects, and the boredom. Why? Because they aren't there to be busy. They are there for one specific moment, the moment when the target, the wind, and the light all align perfectly. When that moment arrives, they don't react. They respond with total precision. When you become unshakably calm, your life becomes strategic. You stop chasing every shiny object and stop fighting every petty battle. You realize that 99% of the things that demand your immediate attention are actually distractions designed to keep you from your 1% of true power. You become a person of controlled action. You wait, you observe, you calculate, and then, when the timing is perfect, you strike with a level of force that the reactive person can never imagine. You aren't moving slower, you are moving with more intent. The eye of the storm, handling external chaos. The true test of your training is how you behave when the people around you are in a state of uncontrolled speed. In every office, every family, and every social circle, there is emotional contagion. If one person panics, the panic spreads. If one person is impatient, everyone starts to feel the rush. Most people are like mirrors. They reflect the energy of whoever is standing in front of them. The unshakable person is not a mirror. They are a thermostat. A mirror reflects the temperature of the room. A thermostat sets the temperature of the room. When you enter a chaotic situation with a calm, patient, and deliberate energy, the contagion stops at you. People will look at you. They will see that you aren't breathing heavily. They will see that your voice is steady. They will see that you aren't checking your watch every 10 seconds. And slowly, almost magnetically, they will begin to synchronize their energy with yours. This is the hidden leadership of patience. You don't have to tell people to calm down. Your presence, your refusal to be rushed, commands them to calm down. You become the eye of the storm. While the wind is howling at 100 miles per hour just a few feet away, inside your circle, there is total stillness. Mastery of timing, the art of the right moment. Impatience is the fear that if you don't act now, you will lose the opportunity. But the master of patience knows a secret. An opportunity taken at the wrong time is no longer an opportunity, it's a liability. In investing, buying a great company at the peak of a bubble is a mistake. In relationships, saying I love you or let's get married too early can destroy a beautiful connection. In business, scaling a company before you have a solid foundation will lead to a faster collapse. Patience gives you the third eye of timing. Because you aren't being pushed by the itch of your own ego, you can see the natural rhythms of life. You can see when a market is exhausted. You can see when a person is ready to listen. You can see when a problem is ripe for a solution. When you are unshakably calm, you understand that waiting is actually an active process. You are waiting for the yes from reality. You are waiting for the moment when the resistance is lowest and the potential for success is highest. This isn't laziness, it is high-level efficiency. The internal reward, the end of ruminating. Perhaps the greatest gift of becoming unshakably calm is what happens inside your head. The impatient person is a ruminator. Because they react impulsively, they spend the rest of their day thinking about what they said, what they did, and what they should have done. Their mind is a constant courtroom where they are both the defendant and the judge. They are exhausted by their own volatility. When you master patience, the internal courtroom falls silent. Because you paused before you spoke, you have nothing to apologize for. Because you waited 48 hours before the big purchase, you have no buyer's remorse. Because you stayed calm during the argument, you don't have to spend the next 3 days fixing the damage your words caused. You regain a massive amount of mental energy. You sleep better. Your blood pressure drops. Your baseline level of happiness rises. You realize that most of the stress in your life wasn't caused by your problems. It was caused by your reaction to your problems. When the reaction stops, the stress evaporates. The final reframe: waiting is strength. As we close this book, I want you to carry one final mental reframe with you for the rest of your life. Society has taught you that waiting is a sign of stagnation. They have taught you that the alpha is the one who acts first and loudest. They have taught you that patience is the virtue of the weak who have no other choice. They are wrong. Patience is the ultimate display of strength. It is the ability to hold a massive amount of internal pressure without cracking. It is the ability to keep your eyes on a goal for years without losing focus. It is the ability to let an insult fly past your ear without flinching. A weak person must react. They have no choice. Their emotions own them. Only a truly strong person has the power to stay still. Only a truly strong person can say to the world, "I will move when I am ready, and not a moment before." Calm is power. Waiting is strength. The journey ahead. You are now equipped with the skill of patience. But remember the second chapter. The brain adapts to what you repeat. The world will not stop trying to rush you. The technology in your pocket will continue to be engineered to distract you. People will continue to be late, rude, and chaotic. The marshmallows will continue to be placed in front of you every single day. Your job is not to find a world that is patient. Your job is to remain a patient person in an impatient world. Every time you feel that itch of urgency, remember that it is just a chemical signal, a phantom from your primitive past. Smile at it. Recognize it. And then, choose the pause. Choose the response. Choose the calm. You are no longer a puppet. You have cut the strings. You are the master of your time, the captain of your emotions, and the architect of your own strategic peace. Go out into the world and move slowly. Think deeply. And when the moment is right, and only then, act with everything you have. Final mantra for the audiobook. Narrator, read slowly, with weight and authority. Calm is power. Waiting is strength. The skill is yours. The time is now.